Welcome back to West Texas View.
We've been visiting with Sharon Humphreys, who's the vice president of the Midland Opera Theater. And before the break, we were talking about the educational component and how important it is to start educating children as early as possible about the musical value and the theatrical value of opera. And before we leave that, I want us to talk a little bit about what you're doing with adult education.
I teach an Opera 101 class at Midland College through their continuing education program, and what I've been doing lately is I have targeted 3 or 4 operas that the Metropolitan Opera Company is going to broadcast at our local movie theaters. A lot of people don't know that instead of doing the touring companies like they used to do years ago, with the advent of HD TV and HD video capability,
sound systems,
they now broadcast their opera performances from the Met live on Saturdays. They select, I think this last year it was 10 or 12 Saturdays over the course of the season, and they would broadcast those operas into movie theaters that subscribe to them. The movie theater in Midland that's on the North Loop subscribes to that service, and the Century Theater in Odessa behind Home Depot also subscribes to that service.
And so then you teach adults from the standpoint of what they need to know to understand and appreciate opera more than how to perform.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Oh yes. It's more of
an appreciation course.
Right. Exactly. That's really what it is. So that when they go to see the opera at the movie theater, or if we've also got an opera on the road group, and I sometimes will study an opera that they're going to go see somewhere. Like this last year, we went to Houston, and we went and saw Aida and Die Fledermaus. And we talked about those before we went, so that everybody's opera experience is more enhanced when they're actually there. And what a lot of people don't know that's happening more and more, because everybody says, oh, well, opera's in a foreign language, I don't understand any of it. Not so. They still sing it in the foreign languages, but most all of the opera companies either use subtitles or supertitles in English. And so you sit and you're listening to the music in the foreign language, but you're also reading what they're singing about, so that you can understand it. It makes so much more sense.
And and when you take just like taking an art appreciation course or architectural appreciation course, you begin to understand the fine points to it, and then that makes going to an opera so much more enjoyable. But again, before we go away from the education standpoint, talk about your scholarship program.
Well, our third component of our educational program is that we have a scholarship, and we call it Opera for Tomorrow, because obviously those of us involved in Midland Opera Theater want opera to continue, and in order to do that, we've got to have the singers and the performers and all to make that happen. And we just had this last Saturday our Opera for Tomorrow auditions, and 11 contestants competed for a $2,000 scholarship, and Rachel Holder from Odessa was the winner.
Oh, how wonderful. And so you'll follow her, just like you have all these others that have gone out of the Permian Basin and gone on to great careers. And we're going to talk in a little while about you're bringing all of those people back for one spectacular show at the Noel Wagner Performing Center. But now let's get into that part that I said we were going to talk about, how this education has paid off, and now we are sending people out into the world to perform.
Yes. The Permian Basin has had about 10 professional opera singers that I know of that have come from this area.
And have really taken the career and just blossomed it.
Yes, yes. Susan Graham, Loretta Bybee, Eddie Pleasant, Jo Dan Harper, Geneva Kalin but around here she's known as Jody Kaplan, but she just needed to change her name because apparently Jody Kaplan in some foreign language is not a very nice term.
Oh, okay.
So she changed her name. Heather Johnson Watts, Kip Wilborn, a new upstart is Michael Samuel. We've had opera singers that now live here that have performed in other parts of the United States. And Christopher Vaught, who's originally from San Angelo, now lives in Midland. And he's going to perform for us in this concert that we're going to talk about. And I'm trying to think, I've left some. Deborah Patchell is another one. And then the young ones that are, the younger ones that are starting up are Adam Belamovich and Gage Herman and Caitlin Hatchett and Olivia Lerwick.
And that is a lot of people from one little tiny area.
And I apologize if I left somebody out. Well, David Corman's here, and Kimberly Corman, and Melissa Orta. Melissa teaches and has a great voice, and anyway, all of those people are just phenomenal.
And one of the things that we find a lot of people say, why in the world do we have opera in West Texas? This is a country western music capital. We don't want to have any of that silly stuff. But they don't understand that country music and every other kind of music came from opera. Talk about that a little bit.
The first opera, the oldest opera that we still have the music for, was written in the very early 1600s. And that was Monteverdi's Orfeo. And I mean, and I think if I've got my date right, that was like 1607. And that we have that full opera. So opera's been around for more than 400 years. The whole symphonic music movement came from symphonies that were performed from the symphony orchestra that was performing for operas. Musicals are simply an opera that's in the vernacular of the area.
Taken a little bit more modern.
Yes, yes.
But everything, it springs from that. And that's what a lot of people do not understand. We're going to have to take a break right now, so we'll be back in just a minute and continue this conversation. But in the meantime, I want you to be sure and get a pencil and write down her contact information so you can contact her if you have any questions about this. See you in just a minute.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.